Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me for the video today. I really appreciate it. In it, we're going to go over the worst 10 moves of the NFL offseason thus far. I did a video on the top 10 moves and I felt only fitting to do the flip side of that. But before we get into that, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. Please consider giving me a like and subscribe. The support means so very much. It is greatly appreciated. It enables me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you guys the content that you love. With that done, let's get into this version of Hot Off the Press. Just like the top 10 video, I'm going to start at number 10 and work my way to what I think is the worst move of the offseason thus far. We are going to start in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, and it seems like they might actually want Mitch Trubisky to be their guy. They gave him a 2-year deal for $14.25 million. And really, it's not the money that makes this a bad move. I actually like the signing in the context of a low-cost opportunity to see if Trubs is able to turn it around and bring more consistency to his game. Of course, that is what he struggled with in Chicago. Being able to learn under both Josh Allen and Brian Daboll could have certainly done wonders for his game. That is possible. My beef here is what the move ultimately ended up costing Pittsburgh. The Steelers decided that Trubisky was their guy and then simultaneously took themselves out of that Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Now, would Pittsburgh have actually been players at the table based on what Cleveland ended up giving up? Maybe. Probably not, but you certainly cannot just show your hand right away. I think it is a great strike of irony that Watson is now going to be facing off against these Steelers twice a year. In at 9, I have the LA Chargers move, overpaying to keep one of their own and giving $60 million over 3 years to Mike Williams. Now, to his credit, Williams had an epic half of last year, starting out hotter than any wide receiver did almost in the entire league before he sputtered late. The final numbers still looked great because of that hot start, and that is what he and his agent clearly sold. Boy, did they do a great job in doing that. I like Mike Williams, do not get me wrong, but this contract is massive for a receiver who has had just one season with over 50 catches, and that is in 5 tries. He's had injury, he's had drop issues almost his entire career, and I doubt that he gets this type of deal in the open market, even with his elite size. The connection that he has with Justin Herbert, I think, must have been the biggest reason that they went to get this deal done. But I think that Herbert could have made another wide receiver a star almost just as easily. The Chargers could have easily just franchised Williams for $18 million if they really wanted to see one more year with that connection with Herbert, and I think that makes this move even more head-scratching. I like a bunch of things the Chargers have done this offseason, but this move was certainly not one of them. We head to Buffalo, and my number 8 move that I dislike was the Bills signing Von Miller to that 6-year deal for $120 million. Now, Von Miller is going to be 33 years old at the end of March, so we're going to start there. By the time his contract is up, that means he's going to be pushing 40, and he has just one season over the last 4 where he surpassed 10 sacks. To give an aging pass rusher this type of deal does not make a lot of sense to me. I believe that Buffalo did it because they think that he is the missing piece to push them over the edge, just like he was last year when he did that for the Rams. But is being a 2-time Super Bowl champ and a great locker room guy worth this type of money? For me, not so much. I do like the aggressiveness if that's what Buffalo truly believes, but I just think that it's misplaced. At number 7, I have the Falcons trading away Matt Ryan to the Colts for a 3rd-round pick, number 82 overall. Atlanta really gets pretty little in return for a former MVP and a guy who has been to the Super Bowl and should have won one. They eat massive money in this deal as well, and I just do not understand it. Maybe the damage from the pursuit of the Deshaun Watson deal wasn't able to be healed, and that's why they had to make this move, but it seems like a really low price for the Colts to pay, and they make out like bandits. An obvious rebuild here in Atlanta is underway, and this is a poor way to start it by giving the face of your franchise away for a bag of chips. I'll be honest, I wanted to put this next one even higher on the list, but there have been just too many moves that I considered far worse. So at 6, I have the Packers failing to lock up Devante Adams and trading him away. They got a first and a second rounder from the Raiders. Did Green Bay get solid return for the best receiver in the NFL? I think so, without a doubt. Were they able to work out a long-term deal with him to make him stay longer? Apparently not. My question is, how can you not find a way to make that happen? Adams has been absolutely lights out. He stuffed the stat sheet for years, and that was carrying a really pedestrian wide receiver core in Green Bay for most of those years. Without him, it's going to be really interesting to see what Green Bay is going to be doing on the offensive end. I know that they've already started to shift their approach to a more run-heavy attack, and it seems like they're going to be doing that even more so now. First, they can't keep their MVP happy, and Aaron Rodgers' debacle is another story. And now they let his partner in crime walk out the door. I don't get it, Green Bay. When you have that type of connection, you cannot take it lightly or let it leave the building. And I believe that this move is something that the Packers are going to be regretting for a very long time. And as a Vikings fan, I could not be happier. Into the top 5, and it is the Jacksonville Jaguars giving Christian Kirk $84 million over 4 years. I guess you really have to pay people to come play in Jacksonville, huh? Kirk's career does not warrant anything even close to this type of money, plain and simple. I cannot believe that there was a bidding war that was going to happen if Jacksonville didn't lock him up when they did. Just because you have all of the money to spend does not mean that you throw it away willy-nilly, and that looks like what the Jaguars did here. I really like the player. Christian Kirk is a solid receiver, but I think he would have been much more reasonable at $5 million a year less, or maybe even more. We move to Miami for number 4, and I am going to do a separate video on the Tyreek Hill trade to the Dolphins, but this is an entirely different move. It's Chase Edmonds for 2 years and $12.6 million. And if it was not clear that Miami has no clue how to utilize their backfield after the Myles Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed, Malcolm Brown debacle of 2021, it is crystal clear now. Last year was a solid one for Chase Edmonds when he was healthy, but the money here speaks volumes, and I really don't understand what Miami was thinking. Over $6 million for a running back who has never had more than 159 touches in any season of his NFL career. It doesn't make any sense. Expensive mistake here for the Fins. To number 3 in Arizona, and it's the Cardinals, given 3 years and $21 million to James Conner, and that is with $13.5 million guaranteed. Now, I do not hate running backs. I swear, I actually really like running backs, and it is my go-to in fantasy football. But I just hate when teams pay them. It does not make sense from a team-building perspective, period. Time and time again, we see how replaceable they are, and while I love James Conner, I love his story, and he probably deserves it more than just about anybody, he needs to give his agent a raise for this larceny. To get that type of guaranteed money from a guy with an injury history is absolutely incredible. Arizona does not want to pay Kyler Murray, but they're shelling out this type of cash for the shortest longevity position in the sport. I can see Kyler Murray's pouting face now. We go to Seattle for number 2, and they lost a great one, ladies and gentlemen, when they traded away Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Now, what they got in return wasn't bad. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th rounder. They also got 3 players as part of the deal. Quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive tackle Shelby Harris. Broncos had to give up a 4th rounder to make it happen. Seattle did pretty well to be able to get what they did, but losing a future Hall of Famer is never a good look. The Hawks are going into a full-on rebuild mode, whether they know it or accept it yet. And while they have the ammunition to throw a bunch of darts to try and replicate what Wilson brought to them as a franchise, you're just not going to get that lucky again. Wilson wasn't just a great football player in Seattle. He was a pillar of the community. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year winner. He was an icon, and he was an excellent human being. By not finding a way to make that situation for that player work, I cannot give them a pass. They're likely looking back at this, regretting it for a long, long time. And finally, the worst move of the NFL offseason thus far resides in Washington, where the Commanders give up 2 third-round picks and potentially a second to eat Carson Wentz's contract. Now, I did a video flat out on that Carson Wentz trade or theft, and it discusses what I thought in much more detail, but I just do not see what Washington sees in Wentz. Clearly, this move reeks of desperation for a team that isn't close to being just a piece away anyways. To not only give up twice as much as the Colts did to go and get a worse quarterback. And then they overpay to do it, and they are now in danger of losing a second as well. I know it's March, but madness? This is Washington. I just think that Washington could have used those resources in a much better way, and they're probably going to be looking back and asking themselves why, like I and probably millions of other Americans are right now. That will do it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the content today. I hope you learned something. If you disagree with any of my takes on here, or if you do agree, drop those comments down below. I love the engagement. It is why I do these. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abraham Opatz, and we'll see you next time.